Like, what are your passions and dreams as an artist? And you're a screenwriter, right?
I am a screenwriter. I have written 2 scripts on assignment and multiple other ones just by myself that have not yet been sold or optioned. They're all really good. So if there's any producers out there looking for a comedy, give me a call. I am also, right now developing my first web series, which is an adaptation of Shakespeare. But professionally, I also freelance as a social media marketer, and I do website maintenance for small businesses and organizations like Epiphany Space.
And she's amazing.
Thank you. I try. But I have learned a lot, especially even just since starting to work with Epiphany, just in terms of coordinating multiple feeds of information and getting news out there and just, engaging with the following. And I love that part of it. I really love, I grew up in Virginia, so I have a healthy sense of hospitality as well. My parents are both, huge into like having people over and just, creating a community. And being military, we had to kind of create that for ourselves. So we moved enough that we definitely cultivated that sense of reaching out to people and drawing them in and making them our family. So that's basically what social media is for me. It's just an online reaching out to people and drawing them in.
Now these projects have kind of picked up steam, but this is your second year in LA, right?
Yeah.
So can you just share with us about your journey? Like, what led you to LA?
In about 2001, I started working for a production company on the East Coast in Washington, D.C. Called CDR Communications. And within the first few months of my working there, they began developing a feature film, a script for a feature film. And so I was just, doing my thing, answering the phone, making copies, printing labels, putting them on cassette tapes, because we did cassette tapes back then. It's 2001.
Yes.
And just kind of hearing these conversations about the script that was in development. And I just thought, man, I wish I could get my hands on that script, And eventually there came a point where they're trying to decide where to go with the ending, and I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to just stay here tonight and write my own version of the ending, because I just have to write this. I just feel like this is something that I want to do, whether anybody reads it or not. I didn't have a computer of my own, so I just stayed late at work every night that week, and I just wrote my own Act 3 of the script that was in development.
Wow.
And I was like, now what? I don't know. I like it. I'll just hang on to it. And there came a point where I guess things were they just decided to part ways with the writer they were working with. And I just mentioned to my boss one time, I was like, well, I wrote a version of Act 3 if you want to see it. And he's like, yeah, send it to me. So I sent it to him and he really liked it. And so I became the writer of that script after that. So at that time, that was where I really caught the bug for filmmaking, and I was like, this is what I want to do. Wow. Which was awesome, because I really had never felt that way before about anything. Like, I'd illustrated a few books and I liked it, but this was a passion that just kind of went nuts in my heart. The whole structural element of it, it's not just writing a story, but you're like, the story beats have to hit at a certain time, and it really, there's a lot of timing and building blocks involved. Really just kind of plugged into the company where I was working, and I really just kind of felt comfortable being in Virginia and being near my family, and just kind of having my group of people that I was there with, and I just kind of poured into where I was. I bought a house, I all the things that you're supposed to do as a grown-up, I just did it. I wound up staying at that company for 10 years. And at that point, I was like, okay, I think it is time for me to just start trying things I've never tried before. So I had always wanted to freelance. I'd always wanted to work for myself. And working for a small business is kind of like working for yourself. So I was like, okay, this is the next step. I'm just going to quit here and start working on my own, see if I can just drum up enough business to keep myself alive. And we'll go from there. Keep writing. And so I did that. For about a year and a half. At that point, the idea of California came to me, and it just popped into my head one day. It was really odd. It was the summer of 2012, and I had recently, my 2 roommates that were living with me in the house that I bought, they both gave me notice at the same time they were moving out. And I was like, awesome, okay. So I could either commit to stay here for another year, because I'd already been feeling like, do I want to keep paying a mortgage, like, on this weird salary that I have at the moment? So I could either stay here another year, or I could go ahead and sell and just start the process of moving to LA, because I was like, what's the next scariest thing I could do? Move to LA, sure, why not? And so I signed up for an online screenwriting class just to do another bout of training and to get myself in the headspace of, because I just kind of realized, like, writing is really still what I want to do. And so that fall, it was fall of 2012, I started my screenwriting class. I got my house ready to sell. It sold in 5 days.
Wow.
And,
That's amazing.
yeah, it was amazing, especially given the market at the time. And I moved to Virginia Beach for the rest of the winter. And I just wrote. I just went down there and I wrote, and I freelanced some more. And I was actually very busy. But it was just really cool to just try something like that. Like, I just never would have given myself permission to go live by the ocean. Like, how extravagant can that be? But it wound up being fairly affordable. And with the money that I made selling my house, that made my first year possible in LA. So I was able to move. I sold everything that I owned. I didn't have really anything except what fit in my car. And then the apartment I wound up in, I was able to buy all of the furniture of the girl who lived there before me, because she was moving to Sweden. So I was like, okay, cool. So there are a lot of, like, little steps of just like, okay, Lord, I trust you, and this may just blow up in my face, but let's just see what happens. I just have to go and try this, just for my own sake, because it was an idea that I had, and it seemed like the next logical step in my career path of making movies, to go there, because that's where they make movies, you know?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and I like the summer's my favorite time of year, and it's always warm there, so, like, may as well go there. I care what happens to me, but I more care about not obeying you, you know?
Right.
And I want to see God in action in my life. I want to see Him step in and do amazing things, and that's my whole reason for doing this. So everything that has happened so far, getting connected with Melissa in Epiphany Space, I really just see Him directing and orchestrating. Movies go everywhere, which I kind of knew, but it just whacked me again. And it wasn't that I wanted to go everywhere, but I wanted to be influencing the people who were going to be going everywhere, and I wanted to just be around them and in the middle of their journey. And that just connected with me so strongly, and I just thought, even if I just go and live my life in LA, I feel like that is the calling that I'm getting right now. Even if I don't wind up ever getting a film produced or having any particular success with my creative career, just being there, I think, and walking in those steps of what it's like, is just what I want to do, and being able to somehow direct people to the Lord in the hope of the gospel. Which has been an immense comfort to me in the last 2 years. Oh my gosh, if I didn't have Jesus, I would not be here right now.
So you were led to Epiphany Space, and you met Melissa, and you've stayed, and now you volunteer a lot. You help coordinate their social media and special events, and you're leading the Artist Way discussion, in addition to all of the freelancing and writing you do. Can you tell us more about, like, why you feel so compelled and, like, drawn to continue, like, helping Melissa and her mission?
Yeah. Well, I honestly, when I first met Melissa, I was like, I want to do this. I want to be involved in this. I think I met you somewhere around, like, late spring, early summer, and I thought, okay, well, there's a few small ways that I can get involved. And then somewhere around the middle of summer, I just thought, I'm spending all my time looking for jobs, and I'm not finding really anything, and I'm not making money anyway, so I have all these opportunities to volunteer, and I may as well just dive right in and do those, and at least I'll be having more fun, and I'll feel like I'm contributing to something, rather than being alone in my apartment, like, oh, maybe someone will hire me to do this, you know? So that was actually a deal with the Lord that I made. I was like, okay, I'll go do all this volunteer stuff, and I'm just going to trust that you put money in the bank for me. It hasn't been quite that parallel, but I definitely have gotten more and more work, and I haven't had to go and get it myself. Like, that's half the trouble with being a freelance entrepreneur, is you've got to go network, you got to meet people, you got to, like, be putting out proposals all the time, and, you know, for, like, every 10 that you put out there, maybe you'll get one. It's so much work to get clients. And that was easily half to 3/4 of my time. And since I've been working with Epiphany, I've just been getting people coming to me.
Wow.
Which doesn't, I mean, I can't even really, it's hard for me to say that because it doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah.
So I just am really grateful and appreciative, and I see that as God providing for me. Epiphany Space is why I'm here, you know? So it's never been a temptation of like, I need to lessen my commitment there so that I can do more work. It's just like, this is, if I'm not here, then I don't need to be in LA, really. It's almost that strong. We are incredibly fearful, you know, as creative people. It's like, it's so incredibly vulnerable to just do what you really want, you know, and it's like, we need permission sometimes. So it's really helpful, I think, as creatives to come alongside each other and just encourage one another. If I just create fearlessly, you know, and just as genuinely as I can, chances are it will be better than I would have hoped otherwise, you know?
Yeah. So I feel like both of your stories have so many similarities and parallels. So you both moved to LA from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say to women who are praying about or thinking about like making the move to LA? Like, we did it as well, and I'm sure we have our own opinions, but like, what would you say to them to encourage them to like take that risk?
Definitely timing is everything. You know, not everything. I shouldn't say that. That's just like a standard thing that people say. I think there's a time for everything. I personally am a fan of the bloom where you're planted idea. So if you want to start something awesome, start it in your living room like Melissa did. You know, start where you are, do something that's relatively low risk for you, and you can always scale it up. I wrote screenplays having a full-time job, living in a whole other place before I got to the point where I was like, the next step is to move to LA.
Yep.
So that would be my perspective, is like, really do everything you can without moving here. But then once you're to that point, just go for it.
And also, if you decide to make the move to LA, decide to come here to live and plant roots. And you have to fight for community here, geographically and as far as the industry and work schedules and everything. It is incredibly challenging maintaining relationships with people, and so you have to fight for community, and you need that community in order to be able to really grow and flourish out here, who are persistent out here, that primarily make it. Right. It's not necessarily the most talented. It's relational and it's persistence.
Thanks for letting us come into your space and share your story.
Yeah, you're very welcome.